Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, God didn't tell her to build an ark, but he might as well have. It completely changed her life. You're going to meet the great Lindy-Ann Hopley next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
At the time of this broadcast, the whole nation is watching the folks in Allen, Texas, because unfortunately over the weekend there was a mass tragedy where a gunman comes in and just starts shooting innocent people. At latest, we have a total of 9 dead, including the gunman. Even Christians can feel like the world is getting out of control at this point. To talk about that and to give us a little bit of hope, Lindy-Ann Hopley, she's with Beautiful Witness Ministries. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. And yeah, Jesus is the answer in times like these.
Okay, so, and people who are strong in their faith, they go to church every weekend. To hear this kind of stuff on the news, what words of encouragement can you give to people?
Well, I just encourage you that Jesus is the Savior of the world. And do you know where you're going to spend eternity? You know, I think for myself, I know where I'm going. And so even in the midst of chaos and trauma, He is still the Prince of Peace, just to call upon His name. But also make sure that you know who your daddy is, right? That your name is written in the book of life. Don't delay. Time is short. Jesus is coming soon. And yeah, I just speak shalom, peace over you, those who've experienced trauma in this time.
I was listening to a little bit of your backstory. We had a chance to have lunch together today, and you were something of a wild child. So how did you find yourself in the ministry?
I think everybody asked that question when I started out, but you know, the truth of the matter is, like, God is looking for a willing vessel, not a perfect one. I love Catherine Kuhlman, who said, God is not looking for a vessel of gold or a vessel of silver, but just a vessel that says yes. And that's what I did. You know, I just came out of a very broken relationship with my father, so I was looking for love in all the wrong places. And the church I went to be honest, was just so boring. I thought God is either dead or nonsense someone made up, but I said, I never, ever want to be a Christian. For me, that was just like, that would be so boring. And but I was so happy to find out that Jesus said, I didn't come to give you life that's boring, but life that is life in abundance. And so I had a face-to-face encounter where Jesus Christ walked into my room. He had a white robe on. He had a ring in his hand. I didn't even know stuff like this happened. And he just walked right up to me, said, Lindy-Ann, will you marry me? And I said, would you really, really have me? And my life forever changed from then on. And I realized that Jesus is accessible for everyone and not necessarily the squeaky clean churchgoer. He came for the lost. He came for those who need a savior. And that was me.
Wow. Let's talk about your ministry. And as we do that, I want to scroll down your website. It's a beautifully put together website. It looks like you are all over the place. How do you describe your own ministry?
Well, I would say it's an international apostolic ministry, you know, that just believes in the kingdom here on earth as it is in heaven. So I believe that we are called to be the hands and feet and mouthpiece of Jesus on the earth, with signs and wonders that are still following. You know, I never believed in miracles. I thought someone is getting paid to jump out of a wheelchair and pretend like they got healed. But after I got an encounter with the Holy Spirit, my entire life changed. I started seeing people get out of wheelchairs, blind eyes popping open, deaf ears, and it was kind of like, why didn't anyone tell me that this was still for today? I mean, I was just so like blown away by this King that really did pay for everything on the cross. When we take communion, we remember that his body was broken so ours could be healed, and his blood was spilled for the atonement of our sins. And so that's exciting for me, is to travel around the world and just proclaiming the truth of the kingdom that is accessible, that's available, that's already been paid for, and simply believing.
Okay, so some of those pictures we saw on your website, it showed you really globetrotting. I mean, you really,
Traveled 34 countries.
34 countries. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And what have you learned from your journey?
I've learned that Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. You know, I've traveled to Pakistan. I've been to Africa, to some of the deepest, darkest places like Washington, D.C. in America. And what I've seen is that Jesus is the same. I see the same miracles that took place in the Bible take place amongst a group of radical Muslims, amongst witch doctors in Africa, or even just people in business suits walking around the streets of America. Just last week in Los Angeles, prayed for a girl who had a tumor on her face. She was just coming from the club, and we happened to meet at the parking lot, and her tumor dissolved right there in the parking lot, laid hands on her, it dissolved, and she and her friend gave her life to Jesus because of a miracle. Everyday miracles are still for every day.
And one of your many gifts is she has a beautiful voice. I found a great video on the internet. Let's go ahead and roll it.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean, right with all. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. Come on and sing this together. From the mountains to the prairies, from the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Let's sing it again. From the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America. Hallelujah.
Wow, I got chills. All right, tell us what that event was.
So that was Texas First, and it was down in at Austin, obviously the capital for Texas, and just standing up for righteousness and justice in the government. You know, so I'm actually South African, for those who have not registered quite yet, but where the accent is from. But I really believe that, you know, the government was on Jesus' shoulders, and as believers, we have to stand up for election integrity, what's going on at the border, and being the kings and the priests here on earth.
Sure. Let's talk about the border. And as we do that, we've got some video of you at the border. And that's one of the things I love about you is you actually go where the action is. Tell us why the border is such an important issue.
Well, I mean, currently we obviously actually just have a full-blown invasion happening, and I don't believe it's, it's being paraded as helping people from different countries. But even when I was down there, I mean, we saw Chinese coming in, we saw Russians coming in, and it's not families that are coming for refuge; it's young men that are coming for it. I believe that they're trying to take over America, and that our current administration is playing along. I don't know how much they're getting paid or what the payoff is, but I know the governor of Texas has said, like, we announce an invasion, but if there's an announcement of the invasion, they can actually make moves against what's happening, but they've chosen not to. And I think people don't want to speak up. They're not speaking the truth. And, I've been all around the world, and it's so important for us to be able to keep a country safe by keeping our border secure.
Well, and I know another thing you're passionate about is anti-human trafficking, and I think in that video you talked about some of the atrocities that are happening at the border.
I mean, I just had friends of mine are just investigating some of the border things, and they're just finding footage. I mean, they're taking footage of bodies just lying everywhere. Girls they run into these girls that are crying. They say, why crying? We were just raped by the cartel trying to come in. So there is a massive terrible thing that's happening down at the border, and the mainstream media is not really covering the truth, and so I believe that we, even if the saints have to lead the charge to bring the truth to the people, because it's the truth that sets people free, so that we're not voting in the wrong direction or not standing up against what needs to be stood against, even in the spirit realm and in the natural. So, as a South African, I feel honored to be here just to press in and fight for God's kingdom here in America as it is in heaven.
So we've got a minute left. Give words of encouragement, because a lot of people have to feel like they've got no control, they've got no power. Sometimes it feels like it doesn't matter who is in Washington, nothing gets better. What are some words of encouragement?
Well, I'm going to tell you that the King is still on the throne. Jesus is the King of all kings and the Lord of all lords. And when I came to America, I actually came because God gave me a dream that revival is coming to America. And man, I have seen meetings where people are jumping out of wheelchairs, deaf ears are popping open, demons are coming out of the oppressed, and I believe that we've just actually stepped into the greatest wave that the Lord wants to pour out His Spirit in this time like we've never seen before. And I'm excited. Hold on to His promises. Keep praying for His will to be done, His kingdom to come here on earth as it is in heaven, because He's still on the throne, and greater is He that is in us than he that is in the world.
Wow,
Amen.
You are a powerful preacher. That's a great way to end the segment. We're also going to leave you with the website, which is beautifulwitness.com, the great Lindy-Ann Hopley. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.